What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for October 7th, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. We've got a big show today. It's a big day today. Lots to get to, but first, quick housekeeping. No new Back to the Future this week, but go back and revisit our interview with President and one of the co-founders of the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, Ken Avalon. That is available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Just go back through the archives. I had a fun sit down with him a few weeks ago, talking about this year's induction class for the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. We're talking a little history of the Hall of Fame and just a lot of just knowledge and a lot of fun things with him. So be sure to check that interview out, Back to the Future with a PH, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, check out my buddies at the Clashing Conferences podcast. They take an around the horn style and look at the NFC East, representatives from all four teams, just trash talk, break down that week's games, recap the week before. It's a fun time, so give them a listen. The Clashing Conferences podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. All right, so getting into it, and interesting that James Harden practiced again and seemed like a model teammate, really leading, stepping it up. And I heard it on the radio after we went to a movie night at the kids' school. So I was listening to this WIP, and I forget which host it was, and he mentioned it, and it totally makes sense that the Sixers have been really featuring James Harden on their social media and things like that, really kind of increasing his trade value, where he's coming in now and being the model thing, really increasing his own trade value, showing that he's going to be a good teammate and a good soldier for whoever trades for him. And the rumor is now the Clippers are really ramping up their talks with him. And again, the Sixers want Terrence Mann. The Clippers are offering draft picks, but if they're like in a win now mode, they might be willing. So we'll see. But I do see a resolution to this coming sooner rather than later, so long as James Harden and the Sixers continue to play nice. But it's always, as it's been this whole time, it's always a crapshoot on what they decide and what happens. So we shall see. So yesterday, I don't know where I read or how I missed it. Temple is not a 14-point favorite today. They're a 14-point underdog against the Roadrunners from Texas San Antonio. However, they still have a shot to win. I mean, I guess they always do, and they really can't be as bad as they looked, or maybe they can. But I really think E.J. Warner he's got to put it together at some point. Maybe it's today. I know Texas San Antonio is one of those teams that kind of is like a higher scoring team, so maybe they can get into a little shootout and keep it close and cover. But who am I kidding? I'm just trying to be wishful thinking. Temple takes on Texas San Antonio at the Link today. Hopefully they don't get blown out. Flyers roster is set. They're looking forward to getting started on Thursday. Eagles news, and as the trade deadline approaches the end of the month for the NFL, there's been a ton of rumors about the Eagles trading for a linebacker, Eagles trading for safety help or cornerback help, and it's just a lot of that. But I fully do expect Howie to make some sort of trade at some point in the near future. It's just been his MO, and especially if there's guys, I know Denver's probably going to be looking to get rid of some guys. There's, I saw a rumor at some point that Jalen Mills might be a good fit to bring back, which I don't necessarily think would be a bad idea. So just as we get closer, I'll keep you posted on any rumors that I'm hearing or anything. But speaking of cornerback help, it does seem like Bradley Roby has been playing well, really picking up the playbook. Sirianni's been impressed. So there is an outside chance that he plays tomorrow, which I think would be good, especially with Cooper Kupp coming back. But more on the Eagles tomorrow. The Union are in action tonight down in Chester. They take on Nashville, who's the 7th seed in the East. The Union currently are 3 points out of the 2nd seed. So big game for them tonight. They have 2 more games left before the playoffs start. But the big story, it is game day. Phillies, Braves, 6-0 whatever. And I'm pumped for this. I really am. The Phillies announced that Ranger Suarez was getting the start, which I really, really like. he has the experience. And yes, I know I talked a lot about Christopher Sanchez being that third starter, but Ranger Suarez has the experience. He did it a lot last year. And if you go back and listen to our podcast from last year, every time it seemed like if the Phillies, going into the series, if the Phillies could win the Ranger Suarez game, they'd be in good shape. And they won the Ranger Suarez game. This is no different. If they can come in here tonight and steal the Ranger Suarez game, and then you have Wheeler going on the mound tomorrow, whew, look out. But the good thing they have also going for them with Ranger Suarez is he's rested, but the bullpen is rested because of how well Wheeler and Nola pitched. And like I said, if they can go in and steal the Ranger Suarez game, that would be huge. But I think for the series, I mean, obviously this is a great rivalry. It's one, I feel, not quite Red Sox-Yankees. Obviously that's kind of up there at the top. But one of the better rivalries in baseball. I really do think the Braves have taken over the Mets spot as the Phillies' biggest rival and most hated team. And a lot of that stems from playoffs and just playing big games down the stretch over the years. So all time, though, the Phillies are 2-0 in playoff series against them. Excuse me, allergies are killer today. 7-3 all time in games. And I want to see what happens today because last year, a lot of the division winners complained that because the wild card teams had played at least 2 games leading into that series from the regular season, that they did feel a bit rusty. And I don't know if the same thing is going to happen to the Braves. I'm sure there was some sort of, they tried to simulate some games or something, but they haven't played since last Sunday. The Phillies only had the 2 days off, so they should still be relatively fresh with that. So I look for the Phillies to kind of jump on Spencer Strider early today. And I do think if they can jump on him early, you might be, excuse me, he might be able to be a little rattled. And, excuse me, I apologize for that. I wish I had a cough button. Again, buy more T-shirts so I can buy a cough button. But Strider did get rattled in that game last year down in Atlanta, similar situation. So it's not as though he can't be had. And with having the layoff and everything, they gotta, if they can jump on them early and Ranger can hold them at bay somewhat for the first 2-3 innings, I like the Phillies' chances. Overall for the series, I really do like the Phillies' chances. And I mean, I think of all of the matchups, this is the one the Braves didn't want. And if the Phillies can steal one in Atlanta, I still feel there's no way they're going back for Game 5. But if they do go back for Game 5, I like the fact that we have Zach Wheeler on the mound. So let's go Phils. I am going to pick the Phillies to win this series. I think the way they are playing, they're so focused and businesslike. I think they've learned from their past postseason experience last year. I think they want to get back. They want to taste it. It's not going to be easy. It is not going to be easy. But if they can steal today's game, man. But I'm picking the Phillies in 5. I think the division series layoff for the division winner is going to come back and hurt the Braves today. I do look for a higher scoring game. I think the bats will wake up. But let Ranger go 5 innings, hold them to like 4 runs, get the offense rolling on Strider early. We need Bryce to step out of his little mini slump he's in, but I think Phillies in 5. Hopefully they can steal that Ranger Suarez game today. But let me know what you think. Your prediction for the series. And I already mentioned it once. I'm going to mention it again. We talked with Ken Avalon of the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. We've been doing a Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame focus all month, talking about the place where the GOATs of Philly sports live. Go check out the GOAT of Philly Sports Apparel, phillygoat.com. They're always coming out with new T-shirts. I'm wearing my Mr. Sandman shirt right now. They have that Philly fan to the bone, the Hunt for Red October, just phenomenal shirts. So go check them out. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. go to the GOAT of Philly sports apparel, phillygoat.com. Use that promo code Jim Montgomery, and don't be fooled by imitations. Make sure it has the GOAT on the sleeve. Okay, sticking with the playoff theme, and this one isn't necessarily as memorable as we're hoping tonight's game will be, but on this day, back in 1977, it was Game 3 of the National League Championship Series. It was best of 5 back then, so this was a very pivotal game with the series tied against the Dodgers 1 game apiece. This was, has become known since as Black Friday. The Dodgers started off scoring 2 runs in the second. Steve Garvey, though, clearly was out. Bob Boone blocked the plate. It was blatant. Ump called him safe. And instead of getting out of the inning with only no runs allowed, they got the credit for that one run, got another out. Then I think it was, I forget who knocked in. It was Dusty Baker scored. And ended up giving up 2 runs on a blown call. Phils did come back, though, in the bottom of the second with 3 of their own. On the mound for the Dodgers that day was Bert Hooton, who was usually very composed and very kept almost like a Roy Halladay, very composed. But he was getting frustrated at the home plate umpire for some borderline calls that he felt should be strikes. Philly fans picked up on it and just started going, hoot, hoot, and rattled Bert Hooton, which led to the big inning, the Phillies getting the 3. I remember my dad telling me about they thought they were booing him, but they were saying hoot, and it was a hoot. Pun intended. But they rattled him and gave up 3. They battled back, but the Phils did have a 5-3 lead going into the 9th. And then this is where things really went south, or top of the 9th, I should say. Danny Ozark did not sub Greg Luzinski out for defensive purposes, which he did many, many times that year. Of course, as fate would have it, fly ball was hit to Greg Luzinski. Luzinski misplayed the ball. He was there, but it kind of snow-coned off of his glove. Did recover, grabbed the ball, threw it into second base, and he would have had him I forget who the second baseman was at the time. It might have been Boa was covering the bag. If he had caught the ball cleanly, they would have gotten the out, but instead the ball caromed away, and it led to more runs being scored. Then Davey Lopes came up, and I'm sure you've heard a lot about this. He hit a line drive right down the line and smacked off of Mike Schmidt's knee, but it went right to Larry Boa, who threw it. And I've looked at the replays. I think Davey Lopes was out. And probably, you ask a Dodger fan, they're going to say he was safe. Tie goes to the runner. But I think the ball beat him there by a half a second. But instead, they called him safe. And basically, that was the end. The Dodgers ended up winning the game 6-5, broke the Phillies back. They ended up losing Game 4 and fell out of the playoffs for the second straight year in the NLCS. But going back to the Davey Lopes thing, it's one of those things, and I have some notes and things lined up for a possible Back to the Future episode. It's one of the biggest what-ifs in Philly sports because just the impact that it ended up having on that game, like it just broke the Phillies' spirit that game, and then sort of got into their minds. Now it was the second straight year they had lost, so the following year they lost again, and it was kind of like one of those eerie sort of things, and it took somebody like Pete Rose coming in to get them over the hump. But back to Davey Lopes, I feel as though with today's technology, because obviously the picture and the video you see of it is still grainy because it was from the 70s. And I feel like with today's technology and rules, they would have replayed it and we would have been able to see a clear shot of Larry Boa throwing out Davey Lopes. Instead, we're stuck with Black Friday. And especially after Philly fans, even back then, got Bert Hooton rattled, and really, it was all set up on a silver platter for them coming back the next day, and probably would have won Game 4 the next day and then went to the World Series to play the Yankees. But the silver lining in it all is the Dodgers did lose to the Yankees. That was the Reggie Jackson World Series, and would go on to win the World Series in 1980. So that is just sort of what our fathers and grandfathers did back in the 70s, and that's what I fully expect to see at Citizens Bank Park this week. Let's get it done. But on this day back in 1977, Black Friday, the Phillies lost to the Dodgers in Game 3 of the NLCS 6-5 after blowing a lead in the ninth because Danny Ozark did not sub out Greg Luzinski, and then the umpiring was just absolutely atrocious throughout the whole game. Okay, I mentioned we were talking about the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. Today, we're going to focus on the 20 for 20 they did and the 20 best baseball players in the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. And this is just an absolute, just ridiculous list between the Phillies and the A's and just local guys, too. Some that I didn't even know actually were from Philly, and I probably should have. But every person on this list is in the Baseball Hall of Fame except for two, and both of them probably should be. You have Dick Allen, who's not. He should be. We've talked a lot about Dick Allen and just his career and why he's snubbed. His number is retired by the Phillies. And Jimmy Rollins, who I feel is a Hall of Famer, and I do have a future Back to the Future coming up on both Dick Allen and Jimmy Rollins' Hall of Fame candidacy. It's a shameless plug, so stay tuned for that in the coming weeks. But some of these other games, Al Simmons of names. Al Simmons of the A's. You have Negro League stars Biz Mackey and Judy Johnson, Judy Johnson ended up being a great, like a scout and basically a front office type long before blacks were even given the opportunity to do that. So it was good to see that. Biz Mackey has one of my it's just a cool name. But Chief Bender of the A's, Chuck Klein of the Phils, Eddie Collins of the A's, Eddie Plank of the A's, Grover Cleveland Alexander. We talked about him. His number, even though he didn't really wear a number, is retired. Herb Pennock from Kennett Square, who actually was basically neighbors with my great-grandfather growing up. I was talking to my dad about him last night. Just great guy, played for the Red Sox. But he was a pitcher, and yeah, he lived in Kennett Square, same neighborhood as my grandfather growing up, which I thought was really cool. Because I'm like, that name sounded familiar. So good conversation with my dad about that last night. Jimmy Fox of the A's. We talked about Jimmy Rollins, who I feel should be in the Hall of Fame. Mickey Cochran of the A's. Mike Piazza, a native son, just like Herb Pennock. Did not play here, but Norristown's own. We all know Mike Schmidt. Reggie Jackson, who I believe was from Abington, right around the corner from me, Hall of Famer in his own right, helped salvage and give the Phils some redemption back in 77 when they beat the Dodgers. Richie Ashburn, one of the all-time greats, both as a player and an announcer in Philly. Robin Roberts, obviously lefty Steve Carlton, and Roy Campanella, who's another guy from Philly, catcher for the Brooklyn Dodgers, and did not realize he was from Philly, so that's pretty cool. But, I mean, this list is just phenomenal, and these are just the 20 best. That's not including everybody else that's in or probably will be going in. You have to think that more of those guys from the '08 teams and some of these guys on this team will probably end up going in. But, man, that is a list. They're all Hall of Famers except for two, and the two that are not should be Hall of Famers. But this is the kind of stuff that the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame has been promoting leading up to that 20th induction class in November. Go to their site for more information on all the inductees. That's phillyhall.org. If you want more specific information on this year's induction class or the 20 for 20 that they're doing, go to philadelphiasportshalloffame.org. All the information is there for tickets. You can find out how you can volunteer, all that other good stuff. It's a great organization. Obviously, you have a love for Philly sports, so be sure to support and check them out. But, man, this baseball list has me ready to – I can't wait. Is it 6 o'clock yet? I'm ready for this Phillies game. All right. On this day, back in 1977, Phils lost to the Dodgers 6-5 in Game 3 of the NLCS. Became known as Black Friday because of Danny Ozark's just boneheaded move of not subbing Greg Luzinski out. Hopefully my Owls can cover that 14-point spread. Wishful thinking. Spoiler, I probably will include the Owls in a couple teasers today and tease them up to 20. More, hopefully, good play from James Harden so they can get that trade done. I just want it done so we can focus. I can't even focus on a Sixers preview because I don't even know who's going to be on the team. So hopefully we get more clarity on that. Eagles, big game tomorrow. We'll talk more about that as the day comes tomorrow. Good luck to the Union tonight. Get those 3 points. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go check out the interview with Ken Avalon on Back to the Future. Enjoy this fun-filled sports Saturday. Go Phillies. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.